push the market to a common level, base level, and minimum level is ensured. And on top of that, we have another market-based mechanism, regulatory mechanism, which is called a label. And once the minimum condition is established, you give different labels indicating the performance level, and with which the market is pulled above the minimum level, and we call the pull scenario. So energy labels are coming into the market in Sri Lanka. We have several appliances on energy labeling for example, compact fluorescent lights, linear fluorescent light, refrigerators. Of course, what we see in the market, only the compact fluorescent light, others are in the pipeline. And unfortunately, this labeling aspect is not being practiced, being employed to the buildings. So only USA and few developed countries have used this. It's not still seen in the developing countries. And also in line with that, green building certification programs have set in, which carries the buildings over and above the minimum energy efficiency level. Just to give a spectrum of the existence of building regulations, you will see that the Asian, non-OECD Asian countries, it's for dwellings and other buildings, it's quite at the lower level compared to other countries. Right. Guidelines and standards. So I'll be talking what the standards do is that set the minimum level, and the labels will take the minimum level to a higher value. The standards can be broadly divided into two types. So which is the core idea of this topic is the standards on the performance base. There are two types, prescriptive standards and performance-based standards. Prescriptive standards is basically like what you go to a doctor and get medicine, you get 2 Panadols and so, and it's prescribed. It's something like that. It is for different elements like building envelope, HVAC, the air conditioning equipment, lighting, hot water system, etc. And the standard would prescribe a minimum level for with some performance indicator for each of these elements. And performance-based is contrary, it's different from the prescriptive method, which demands for a specific knowledge of in the sector of engineering or technology, where you have to use your analytical and modeling skills, and of course with the current context with modeling tools, where you predict the performance of the building as a total system and decide whether it has reached the desired level. So the two methods, prescriptive and performance-based. Prescriptive, you just get the value and you satisfy the minimum levels. The performance-based, you have the flexibility to take the building to any level over and above this prescribed level. So you have the flexibility to do that, but of course at the expense of certain expertise and effort to do this. So it's basically, it says if you have the building to be complying with the standards, you have either prescriptive or you have either performance-based. Of course, you have another performance-based based on the cost, subjected to certain mandatory provisions like satisfying labeling conditions of the country that is of interest. And again, this diagram to say that how you use the decision. Well, if you have prescriptive standards, you comply. If you comply the prescriptive standards, you satisfy the conditions. If you do not, then you go to the performance process and you check whether it's complying. If not, you change the design of the building and the whole system. And if not, so there are two levels. So of course, the advantage is that the flexibility that you get in the performance-based method at the expense of a certain effort, using your knowledge into putting into practice. And the modeling process will involve an estimation of peak load design. So you, as shown by Professor Ratnayaka, the architectural, the design of the building, you also would know what are your the peak loads, what are your energy consumptions, then what are the your lighting powers, your receptacle power of your equipment, etc. Annual energy consumption of your building facility, depending on where it is going to be located, depending on what kind of occupancy that you are going to have inside the building, depending on type of activities that you are going to have in the building, and energy efficiency measures. So you decide on, based on your investments, based on your investment plan, what kind of energy efficiency measures that you can incorporate, and you can test the value of or the impact of each of these measures. The case study I have selected is two-story building. The diagram we will see in the next slide. And the basic parameters are indicated. Climatic zone 1A is the Sri Lankan climatic zone according to the nomenclature of the building sector in the technological world. The envelope, so you have the prescriptive, you describe, like the doctor says, your technical parameters, your conductances, etc., the lighting powers and HVAC. So all these are specified. So you don't have a choice. You have to meet these. And in the performance-based method, you don't specify anything, but you have to go through a process where you have to model the building, run the simulation, and ensure that the values comply with the investment that you have thought of. And if it is not satisfied, you can make changes. And within your investment budget, investment plan, you can modify the building and come to a much higher, high-performing building over and above this preset prescriptive values. For example, well, this is a typical the modeling tool that we are using in some of our projects that is capable of giving the building three-dimensional with all its components integrated, with all its parameters incorporated into the model, and which is capable of giving an output of this form. This is the most important slide to say that for this particular example. The building that we had seen, if you use the prescriptive method, these are the energy consumption, annual energy consumption that you expect for interior lighting, for space cooling, that is air conditioning, for more investment, and you can do modification as we saw in the block diagram and come up with a situation where you end up with a energy saving percentage that is convenient to you. Or if you think that is too much, you can bring down, and you don't have any constraint on the individual elements. So this is the same thing predicted in a different form. And finally, I put 5 important conclusive remarks. Standards and labels are found to be an effective energy efficiency improvement strategies that we have seen, the rationale and with the experience. Well, the prescriptive methods of the prescriptive standard establish a minimum performance level for the building sector. So I'm just talking of the building sector. It applies to any appliance as well. A market pool can be established to improve the performance above minimum efficiency levels using labels in addition to the standards. So standards plus labels. Then the performance-based method is more effective than a prescriptive, but demands for an additional effort. We saw that, okay, in this simple example, we could get a building 28% more less energy consuming than a standard building, still complying with the minimum efficiency standards. And the lessons learned can be extended to Sri Lankan building sector. This has not yet taken place. For example, countries like US and other developed countries, they rank the buildings depending on this energy saved. They give stars or some kind of a ranking where your building is ranked, which is over and above the minimum level, and based on that you have a tag for the building depending on the business that you do in the building, whether it's industrial, commercial, and so on. So it's the correct time for us to see. Our designers use the prescriptive standards to a certain extent, not much, but we need to do a leapfrog. If you don't have to go through the same process, it's high time that we consider seriously looking into the performance-based standard in place of or over and above the prescriptive standards. So that's what I planned for today, and thank you very much. Hope if there are any questions, thank you.
Thank you.